violence perpetrated against them by men. The economy is being held back by damage to infrastructure, by extortion of construction sites, corruption, and the high cost of securing businesses and insuring assets. Since the 54th National Conference, we have prioritized building capacity within our law enforcement system. It has taken a little bit more time than it needed to, but we have done much to restore the capabilities and the credibility of the National Prosecuting Authority, the South African Police Service, the Hawks, and the State Security Agency. We are recruiting significant numbers of new police personnel, strengthening the public order police unit, and working to revitalize community policing forum. I had the privilege, together with Minister Cele and our Deputy Minister of South African Police, Comrade Matale, to oversee the passing out parade of thousands of newly recruited police, almost 12,000 of them. They were a wonderful sight. We will not allow gangs and extortionists to damage our public infrastructure or extort money for businesses. The South African Police has established multidisciplinary units to address crimes of economic sabotage and extortion at construction sites by so-called business forums. We have described the violence committed by men against women and children as a pandemic, which is having a devastating effect on our communities and society. We must work together to address the drivers of gender-based violence in our communities, including patriarchal attitudes and practices amongst men. As men, we should demonstrate our intolerance of sexism, of patriarchy, and gender-based violence in how we treat our partners, our colleagues, our mothers, our sisters, and our daughters. The public violence and destruction that took place in July of 2021 had a great impact on South Africans' sense of security and stability. In the wake of the unrest, we established an expert panel that was led by Dr. Sandy Africa to examine the state's response to the violence, which found glaring deficiencies in several areas of our intelligence, security, and police capabilities. The recommendations of the panel are now being implemented. It would not be correct, as some have done, to characterize the unrest as a manifestation of factionalism within the ANC. This was clearly an act of counter-revolution to destabilize our democracy and to weaken the elected government. In addition to strengthening the state's ability to respond, the ANC needs to undertake a political program to prevent a recurrence of these events and the consequent destabilization of the national democratic revolution. One of the aims and objectives of the ANC is to advance and to support the cause of women's emancipation. We have made significant advances. It is largely thanks to the ANC's policies that 46% of all National Assembly members are women. For the first time, half of all cabinet ministers at national level are women. And even at provincial level, we continue to insist that at the very least 50% must be women in the provincial executives. And in some cases, there are even more women than men on those provincial executive councils. Out of 256 judges on our bench, 114 are women, and nearly half of all magistrates are women as well. Currently, 62% of the entire public service is female, and 44% of senior managers are filled by women. Now, comrades, we still have a long way to go to achieve equality in representation across all institutions in our society. Most notable amongst the challenges that impede the pursuit of gender equality is the economic participation or position of women. Much work is underway to promote economic empowerment of the women of our country. Government has set a target of 40% of public procurement for women-owned and managed businesses. Although progress towards this target is uneven between departments, we will get there because this is a must. We have to empower the women of our country. Now, these efforts are supported by training programs for women-owned businesses to qualify for government tender processes. There are also various initiatives to direct financial support to women-owned businesses and specific efforts to ensure access to women to own land, to housing, and to public employment opportunities as well. One of the clearest instructions from the 54th National Conference was to end state capture and to tackle corruption within our own ranks and within government and across society. Since then, we have taken decisive measures to end state capture, to restore state-owned enterprises, to rebuild public institutions, and to enable the criminal justice system to pursue perpetrators of corruption. We have seen important progress by the Hawks, by the NPA, by the Special Investigating Unit, by the Financial Intelligence Center, by SARS, and others who are tackling corruption. Guided by one of the resolutions of our last conference, we set up a very clear directive from this conference, from the last conference. We set up the Commission of Inquiry on State Capture, mandated by the 54th National Conference. The Commission has produced a detailed report, a disturbing report or account of the nature and extent of the mechanics of state capture. The Commission's report revealed extensive corruption, fraud, and malfeasance within government departments, state-owned enterprises, provincial governments, security services, law enforcement agencies, and both local and international companies as well. As the ANC, we have consistently maintained that the Commission is a necessary part of the broader social effort to end all forms of state capture and corruption. we set up a process to engage with the findings and recommendations of the Commission as the ANC to determine how these can help to enhance the process of fundamental renewal and rebuilding within our own movement, as well as in government and broader society. From the deliberations and resolutions of this conference, we must ensure that we use the work of the State Capture Commission to consolidate and intensify the efforts against state capture and ensure that, yes, those responsible, whoever they are, wherever they are, that they should face the might of the law. But we must also say, we know that there will be resistance, but this must strengthen our resolve so that we can protect and advance the gains of our revolution. Turning to the state of the African continent, for the past 3 decades, Africa has seen great advances in democracy, instability, and peace. The formation of the African Union in 2002 here in South Africa and the adoption of the AU Agenda for 2063 a decade later demonstrates the determination of African countries to forge a common future defined by peace, development, and continental integration. Progress towards the achievement of these goals has been mixed. The African Union set itself the objective of silencing the guns by 2020. While peace has been achieved in some areas, there is still war and conflict in several parts of Africa. There is general recognition that peace and stability will remain elusive if we do not address the relationship between security and development. This requires a multifaceted approach that includes improved governance, entrenched democratic norms, respect for human rights, and the political will to capacitate our institutions. We need to address the continued exclusion of women in economic, political, and social spheres on our continent, which renders them particularly vulnerable to violence and conflict, and which also undermines the contribution they could make to finding and sustaining peace. The continent still needs to find solutions to several other challenges, including the growing spread of terrorism and illicit financial flows, which siphon off resources that could be used to fund development. As the ANC, we have been working to strengthen our relations with other liberation movements, and we are proud to see that a number of them are represented here, right from Polisario, right through to Angola, to Zimbabwe, to Mozambique, Botswana. They are here, and we are very pleased. One of the most significant areas of progress in the implementation of Agenda 2063 was the coming into effect of the African Continental Free Trade Area in January last year. The AfCFTA will boost intra-African trade, promote industrialization without any doubt. It will also promote competitiveness of our products, and it will contribute to job creation and facilitate Africa's meaningful integration into the global economy. And in this regard, South Africa stands a really good chance and opportunity, as we are the most industrialized country on the continent, but we are also seen as the gateway in into Africa. Improving women's access to trade opportunities will not only facilitate economic freedom for women, but also expand the productive capacity of various countries on our continent. South Africa assumed the AU's chairship in February 2020, mere days before the first COVID outbreak. The continent's swift and decisive response demonstrated what is possible when African countries work together under the auspices of the African Union to confront a common crisis. Africa was able to mobilize vital medical supplies, vaccines, and funding on a continental basis. In the midst of vaccine hoarding by wealthier nations through the African Union and other structures, we were able to secure over 500 million COVID vaccines for the continent. African countries have worked together with international partners, especially with the WHO, to build the continent's vaccine manufacturing capacity and enhance its health security. And South Africa played a key role in advocating for the ability of the African continent to be able to have its own vaccine manufacturing capability. Now, despite many challenges that our continent faces, we remain confident about Africa's future. We are confident that it will continue to grow and thrive, and that it will become a new frontier of global production and development. This has to be Africa's century. Now, Africa has an abundance of nearly everything: natural resources, its people, as well as agricultural endowments, as well as a young, dynamic, rural and urban population. Now, this is a great benefit for our continent. Institutions of the African Union and regional bodies are playing a greater role in bringing countries together to face common challenges, and the AfCFTA promises a new era of economic growth and development. This conference is taking place during rising geopolitical tensions, which are evident in a number of conflicts that are happening, especially in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The effects of these tensions include growing food, energy, and financial crisis, which affect poorer countries the most. We reiterate our pronounced position and our call for a negotiated solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and a call on all countries and the international bodies to create the conditions for dialogue to bring about a just and lasting peace in that part of the world. Our foreign policy is informed by the premise that multilateralism and respect for international law are key to achieving global political and economic stability. We therefore continue to uphold the enduring principles of the United Nations Charter and international law. The stalemate in Western Sahara continues, with Morocco's inflexible policies not abating despite the appointment of a new personal envoy of the United Nations Secretary General in September 2021. Terrorism is spreading on the continent, and there is a correlation between the situation in Libya and the growing threat from terrorist activities in the Sahel region. In the Middle East, the occupation of Palestine territories by Israel and its ongoing expansion of settlements and policies despite the United Nations Security Council resolutions condemning expansionist activities continues to fuel conflict. Israel continues to violate international law, the provisions of the UN Charter, and international humanitarian law. We continue to stand with the Cuban people as they stood with us in the struggle against apartheid and as they continue to provide support for our development. We reiterate our gratitude to the people and the government of Cuba for providing South Africa with medical personnel and at the height of COVID-19 pandemic. And we call for the end of the isolation of Cuba and for the lifting of the embargo and other restrictions directed at that country. In many of our international interactions, we have drawn attention to the difficulties that Zimbabwe is experiencing as a result of the sanctions imposed by various countries on Zimbabwe. We reiterate our call on the international community to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe as called for by SADC and the African Union. And South Africa continues to play an important role in the international arena. We have used our membership of BRICS, the G20, and the non-aligned movement to advance the interests of the African continent and the global South. We remain active in SADC and organs of the African Union. We continue to contribute to peace efforts in Mozambique and the DRC as well. Recently, our country played an important role in facilitating peace in the war in Ethiopia. Our former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka played a key role alongside other former presidents of some various countries on the continent. And we applaud her for that role. Recent events, such as the Russia-Ukraine conflict, have in many ways exposed the inability of the UN Security Council to fulfill its mandate of maintaining international peace and security. The current configuration of the United Nations Security Council is simply outdated, and it's also unrepresentative, and it disadvantages developing economy countries. Currently, there's a summit that is taking place in the United States between various African countries and the United States. It was pleasing to hear an articulation in that summit supporting the call that we have always made, that Africa needs to be represented on the United Nations Security Council. The message is beginning to sink. In line with our conference resolutions, South Africa continues to advocate for the reforms that will address this issue. The 54th conference gave us a clear mandate to unite and to renew the African National Congress. In the last 5 years, we did much to pursue a strategy of unity, rejuvenation, and renewal. We reaffirm our conviction that the strength, unity, and coherence of the ANC is necessary for the advancement of the interests of the people of South Africa and for building a national democratic society. We therefore do not pursue this process of renewal of the ANC for its own sake. We pursue it because of its importance to the fulfillment of the ANC's historical mission. Throughout its long history, the ANC has pursued the achievement of unity with its own ranks and across society. We have been clear that unity must be based on principle and the observance of the revolutionary values of our movement. Our experience of recent years is that disunity does not arise from ideological, political, or strategic differences amongst us, but it arises from a contest over positions in the state and resources that are attached to them. That is what causes disunity amongst us. We need to acknowledge that despite our efforts over the last 5 years, we are not as united, we are not as cohesive or effective as we should be. Now, our disunity continues at the expense of the support that we should get from the people of South Africa. Because when our people see us disunited, they walk away from us. They only gravitate towards the ANC when they see that its leadership is united, its membership is united and cohesive, its leadership is not at each other's throats, its leadership does not continue to attack each other on public platforms. Now, some of the divisions that existed before the 54th National Conference continue within the organization. They also continue within the leadership core of the ANC. Members of the ANC often tell me that, President, we as members are united. It is you, the leaders of the ANC, who are divided. But they also tell me that, President, it is you, the leadership, who cause divisions amongst us as members of the ANC. Now, as we anticipated, the actions we were mandated to take against corruption and state capture have at times caused friction amongst us. So the process of renewal of the ANC, comrades, was given a really good boost when the proposal of the ANC Veterans League was accepted by the NEC to set up a renewal commission, which will present its report during this conference. The ANC has never fought the struggle for liberation alone. It has at all material times sought to draw together those formations that align with its objectives and are committed to the pursuit of the NDR. We have long been grappling with the form of the alliance that it should take in the democratic era. Now, after the experience of nearly 3 decades of democracy, we have agreed on the need for the alliance to be reconfigured to ensure that it remains relevant and effective in pursuing the national democratic revolution under present conditions as well as into the future. This 55th conference must provide guidance on the reconfiguration of the alliance so that we may conclude this discussion. The renewal of the ANC itself will be incomplete without the renewal of our entire movement, including how we deal with the issue of the reconfiguration of the alliance, the core of the movement. Now, In doing so, comrades, we also maybe at this conference need to have the difficult conversation of how some of the discussions are happening in some of our alliance partners. In the SACP, for instance, there is a debate going on whether the SACP should on its own run for elections under its own ticket and compete with the African National Congress. So we must engage in that discussion. But I want us to engage in that type of discussion calmly and in a way that is driven by the politics of our movement and of the NDR. The matter of the reconfiguration of the alliance should be seen as leading to improving the alliance relations at national, provincial, regional, and local level. It is true that our alliance partners feel that at times they are not properly included, properly recognized in terms of their role when we as the ANC take a number of decisions. We need to come to grips with that and see how best the alliance continues to be solidified as we move forward. It can also be said that at the heart of this process of improving relations in the alliance lies the imperative to strengthen the alliance and build its capacity to achieve its historical mission to drive and complete our shared strategy, the National Democratic Revolution. As the ANC, we must recognize that there have been weaknesses. There have also been lapses and shortcomings in how we have managed this relationship and how we approached our common tasks and responsibilities. In recent times, we have observed tensions in the alliance. Some of these tensions arise from our inability to engage effectively and regularly on key issues, whilst others arise from the broader challenge of an ANC government that is, in effect, in an employer-employee relationship with a significant portion of COSATU members, where on one side we are an alliance partner and on the one side the ANC-led government is an employer. Then the tensions from the one relationship then infect or affect the relations on the other side. This is a complexity that we must understand and resolve. The ANC recognizes the leadership role of the working class in social transformation and stands ready to work with COSATU and the party and all progressive formations to build working class unity. One of the tasks arising from the 54th National Conference was to rebuild the ANC's electoral support after a gradual decline over the course of more than a decade. According to our analysis of past trends, we managed to halt the decline in 2019 national and provincial elections. This was thanks to the hard work, effective campaigning, and a positive response to actions arising from the National Conference. Now, the 2021 local government elections were, however, a significant setback for the movement and the National Democratic Revolution. For the first time in history, in our democracy, our share of the national vote dropped below 50%. Another grave concern is a substantial decline in the proportion of young people who have registered to vote. In the 2019 elections, 41% of people aged 18 and 19 were registered. By 2021, that number had dropped and fallen to 9%. And unless this trend is reversed, fewer and fewer adults will be registered to vote, and the strength of our democracy will steadily decline. One of the tasks we have identified in successive January 8 statements is to build social compacts, and this is something that we continue to pursue because it is important that these compacts must be built. We need to address this issue even as we are building a number of compacts on a sectoral basis as we move ahead. We need to strengthen our branches, and our branches need to lead campaigns that make the lives of our people better. The Letsema campaign has become the flagship campaign in the African National Congress, and we must utilize it leading up to the 2024 elections. Our branches must put this campaign to good use, as it has proven that it has great capacity to reconnect our people with the ANC. Communities must see an ANC that is in touch with them, an ANC that is involved in the issues that affect them. The ANC needs to draw in people whose talents, expertise, and energy can support our objectives and programs. At times, there's a tendency to lock people out, to say certain people with certain skills need to be kept out of the ANC. As we move forward, we must bring everyone in. In other words, masibute zonke, all the people who can contribute. We need also to move forward, comrades, to make our branches stronger and stronger as we bring all these skills within the ANC. Now, this is a solitary moment for the ANC. Unless we act now with courage and honesty to redeem our organization, we will have betrayed the ANC's historical mission and failed our people. In a decade from now, the ANC will celebrate 120 years of existence. By that time, in 2032, our ambition for the country would be to have realized the goals that are set out in the National Development Plan. The Renewal Commission will be presenting a report to this conference, as I said, a report that will give us a draft vision 2032 and also a roadmap for our consideration. The 55th conference should envisage what the ANC of the future will be and should outline the actions that we need to take to make that future a reality. We must envisage and work towards an ANC that incorporates the best traditions, the best values and practices of our past while responding to the challenges of the circumstances of the present. We must be a movement that embraces the pioneering vision of our founders and the fighting spirit of the young lions of successive generations. We must be an organization that distinguishes itself by the quality, capability, and political consciousness of its cadres. The ANC must draw into its leadership ranks the best in our society, the most committed patriots who seek to serve the people without any expectation of reward. A member of the ANC must distinguish themselves by their humility, by their modesty, by their discipline, whether they are in meetings or outside of meetings. They must also distinguish themselves by their purpose, by their hard work, by their fortitude, and the confidence that they exude about being an ANC member, by their self-belief and selflessness, and by their activism in the community and their concern and love for the people and their welfare. That is what an ANC member should be. The leadership needs to reflect, and its membership, by the way, the diversity of South African society, ensuring the equal participation of women throughout its structures, as I said, and the bias towards the working class is a must. The ANC also needs to be a youthful organization that is in touch with the needs and aspirations of the new generation. But that youthfulness must serve as an attraction for young people outside the organization. We must be attractive to young people. We must be an organization that draws on the experience, wisdom, and energies of all generations of activists. Above all, the ANC must be the most effective instrument in the hands of our people. These are the hopes that we all share. But to get there, we must be prepared to work hard. We must ensure that our movement always remains the pillar that our people can lean on in difficult times. South Africa, like many other countries, has entered a period where strategic opportunities, risks, and challenges are concurrent, and uncertainties and unforeseen factors will continue to arise. Various occurrences and events may occur at any time. We must therefore be mindful of potential dangers. We must be prepared to deal with the worst-case scenarios and be ready to deal with various calamities, be they pandemics, be they economic recessions, be they security matters, or even dangerous weather occurrences. Now, on the journey ahead, we must firmly adhere to the principles that have stood us in good stead in the past, which are the unity and resilience of the people of South Africa, the unity and cohesion of our movement, and the adherence to our people-centered development path, particularly in dealing with poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We must have a strong sense of purpose and fortitude, and we must have a strong sense in our movement and our people. We must meet obstacles and difficulties head on and focus on addressing the triple challenges that we face. We must be able, comrades, to harness the indomitable fighting spirit of our forebears, like Albert Luthuli, Sefako Makgato, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Helen Joseph, Chris Hani, Albertina Sisulu, Lillian Ngoyi, Charlotte Maxeke, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Joe Slovo, Ahmed Kathrada, to address the difficulties and challenges on the road ahead so that we are able to open new horizons for the development of our people. And in all this, comrades, we dare not fail. We dare not also fail those who have come before us. So at this 55th conference, let us exercise discipline, let us exercise political consciousness, let us demonstrate that indeed we are worthy of being delegates of our people at this conference by sitting here and debating issues. Instead of shouting at each other, instead of howling at each other, let us be Amandla. Ngiyabonga.
Amanda, kanibambe comrades, kanibambe comrades, kanibambe comrades, kanibambe comrades, kanibambe comrades, Swaren Yualo, Mamelani. There are too few things that should happen. Anybody who picked up a missing cell phone of somebody, please bring it forward. We are going to adjourn the meeting. I will tell you why. When we adjourn, we are all requested to have dinner here because that is where it is prepared, not in the hotels. So you are reminded that why should we adjourn now is because the next session is going to be a closed session. It includes adoption of credentials. Now, if there are few comrades who are still being registered in the registration center, we will be depriving them of the right to be delegates if we continue without them. Okay, comrades, as the dealer get credentials must all be here. That's why we cannot just continue, even if we think that delegates present in the conference do form a quorum. We're not going to follow that. Every delegate must have the opportunity to be here in the next session. Lastly, the announcement leadership as a KZN, it delegates as a KZN, the Sale of no Kulmanas. Ninga shauta mnawe ngoba ndi message ntunyiwe. Shauta napa kumu. So what we're going to do now, we're adjourning. We'll come together tomorrow at 9. At 9 tomorrow we're here, and it is a closed session. Mamelani, I don't know who you want, so this is your phone. I've got the phone, I've got the charger, I've got the key of a car. If it's yours, please come to me. Thank you. Tomorrow at 9 we meet here. The meeting is now adjourned.